truthful from your mouth and your heart be filled with peace. Let us celebrate God's gifts in the life of Cade West.
Good morning. My name is Cade West, and this is my 7th and final year here at TMI. I'm here to tell you that life is full of miracles, and sometimes things that might seem bad one day can turn out for the best the next day. No matter what is happening, it is important to just keep trying to do right and live the best life that you can. My story begins when I was in 8th grade, and my brother was a sophomore. And during our free time, we spent all of it working on our fort. This was the epic fort, our epic fort. It started out as a small clearing in the woods and ended up being the coolest, most extravagant 2-story secret hideaway ever built. We put our hearts and souls into building it, and as soon as we would get home from school or wake up on the weekends, we would get our axe, wood, saws, hammers, nails, and other scrap materials we can get our hands on, and head over the back fence and into the ranch behind our house. Yes, the ranch behind our house that is privately owned, not public land. Some of the neighborhood kids would join us and help when they could. We would add on to the fort and cut branches off some of the nearby trees so we could camouflage the fort. My mom noticed we were going back there and told us many times, "Boys, don't go back there. That's private property and you can get in a lot of trouble. Not to mention, you can get hurt, especially during hunting season." But do you think my brother and I thought she knew what she was talking about? No. She was clueless. The ranch was wide open. No one was around, and the place was all to ourselves. We couldn't have been happier. That is, until one early morning when I was walking into the bathroom and looked out the window and saw Kendall County Sheriff standing right at our back fence. He was trying to climb over but couldn't manage, and my heart was racing. I guess it was pretty obvious that it was us who built the fort because we had a ladder over the fence and a worn trail heading straight to the fort. I told my brother, who was in the shower, "Cody, a sheriff's trying to get into our yard." He said, "Yeah, right." I replied back, "Seriously, come and look." Cody peeked from the shower and said something that I won't repeat here. After talking with one of the deputies, I headed upstairs to break the news to my mom that the sheriff was here and wanted to talk with her. My mom did not look pleased. She headed out with me, and after a brief discussion, he said, "Ma'am, I think you need to see this." Instead of climbing over the fence, we drove down to the nearest gate and hiked in from there. It was Easter weekend, and if you can imagine me and my brother, my mom, the landowner and his friend, and 2 deputies walking behind all of our neighbors' homes while they were all outside barbecuing. Yeah, it wasn't a pretty sight. We got to the fort, and I think everyone was a little surprised that it was just us kids who built it. It was huge. After listening to the deputy rattle off all the things we had done wrong, including trespassing and damaging the trees, he finally said, "Okay, I'm charging you 2 with destruction of property and criminal trespassing. You 2 and your mom." Everyone was quiet for a few minutes while this sunk in. Then the landowner finally spoke up. He said he was pretty ticked about the trees, but then he explained to us that he and his brothers and sisters had talked it all over, and they decided they didn't want to press charges. We would need to contact him to set up a time to tear it all down and clean the place up to look like nothing was ever there. We would also need to spray any wounds on the trees so they didn't get infected. We were so relieved, but we were so bummed about tearing down the fort. So that's what we did. My brother and I wrote letters to Mr. Chipman apologizing for what happened, and after we tore down the fort, we never went back there. That is, not until last year. That's when Mr. Chipman called and offered me a job on his ranch, the same ranch where the fort once stood. I realized that this was the job I had been hoping for my whole life, that is, working on a ranch. I also thought about what a strange turn of events this was. to work for the same man who could have pressed charges against us. Mr. Chipman having worked with his ranch manager, John Backey, who's still good friends with me today. Our work included clearing cedar trees and keeping the deer population from overpopulating the ranch. I am very lucky and thankful to have had the opportunity to work with great people and learn so much at the same time. I've learned a few key things to know wherever you go. Use your manners, a firm handshake, and maintain good eye contact. Respect can be the difference between criminal charges and a job. A quote from Vic Johnson sums it up best. In life, there are no mistakes, only lessons.